Welcome to ServiceNow Tech Bytes, bringing you an inside look at our products. I'm your host, Steve Miller. Today we're going to talk with Principal Portfolio Manager Mary Vanatta about how to use the Common Service Data Model, CSDM, to bring together all the data you use across the entire ServiceNow platform. Today I'm happy to welcome Mary Vanatta. Welcome to the podcast, Mary.
Hey, many thanks, Steve. Happy to be here.
So before we start talking about CSDM, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you do here at ServiceNow.
Yeah, Steve, I am the principal portfolio manager of the ITOM and CMDB products here at ServiceNow. I load workshop decks, assets up into Now Create. I help create leading best practices around those products. And our customers, partners, and internal expert services can use those to help implement the product.
Okay, cool. And how about when you're not at work? What do you do to fill up your hours?
I love to travel, and I love to spend time with my family. I have three grandkids, and I have a senior that's going off to school in college next year.
Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds like the main job, and ServiceNow is your side gig.
You've got that right.
All right, well, let's talk about CSDM then. This common data model for the platform. So to start off, for people who aren't familiar with it, I wonder if you could give us a quick overview. What is CSDM?
CSDM often sounds very confusing and scary, but really it's just the common data model um, around the data that needs to go into the platform. This is why our customers use ServiceNow is to get the data they need to make great business decisions. And in order to do that, all of our customers across when they're using applications across the platform, they just need to have they need to know they're talking the same language, whether they're an enterprise architect using the APM application, or they might be a service owner using our digital portfolio management. This just helps them to use the same data points.
Okay, good. So I know that's one of the advantages of ServiceNow and the platform itself is having all a common set of data for all applications.
Yeah, I mean, we've made some big changes for across the last few years around, the data to help pull it together to make the reporting across the platform better. They retooled the products, their apps, the workspaces, dashboards, and analytics all depend that all of our customers are using the same data points, or else those dashboards, workspaces won't work.
Well, when you redid that retooling, that sounds like it was a big change for both ServiceNow and the customers.
Yes, it has, and it's caused a lot of concern for our customers in wanting to know how do they go from maybe some customization that they need to do some remediation, and that we want to encourage our new customers to align to the common data model before they get too far into development of, let's say, ITSM products.
Okay, yeah, I can see how they'd want to start to using that from the very beginning rather than going down a blind
Yeah,
alley. Well,
yeah, for
so
sure.
so y- so how about organizations? So I can see that for new customers, but how about organizations that aren't really ready to use the common data model yet? Like maybe they've created their own data model, or maybe they have CSDM, but they don't have it populated yet. How would they get in step with CSDM?
So first, we need to I would recommend that they read the CSDM white papers that have been published in the community and on Now Create, so that they understand there is benefit and value, so that the business has that end-to-end visibility of everything that their business does to meet their capabilities. I would tell them if they've already started and they have customized fields. I Some of the steps that they may take would be to create a project around this, get leadership on board. They would need to um, form a small SWAT team to gather that data around their business applications, what applications they have deployed, who supports those, what services from those are provided to the customer or to the end users. They need to probably get some expert help, either through a ServiceNow Expert Services, a certified partner that would help them to avoid some time consuming missteps. Uh, they'd want to probably have a sandbox in order to take their data and see what customized tables that they have and what attributes that they are using, and be able to map those from one legacy table to the new table and use the new attributes. They need to create an organizational change management plan to communicate the value, the need for resources, a technical plan. And I would recommend that they need to identify any ongoing projects that the CSDM transformation could impact, such as if they're doing another large software implementation, that application owner that they may need to have them give information about their deployed application may not be available to answer their questions. I would plan on two work streams. Work streams. One would be a team that would get together and gather and align the data model. This is going to be your enterprise architect, your CMDB manager, some CI analysts, even maybe your incident and change process owners that use this data. And they would model their data. What is it going to look like when it goes into the platform? Then they would also need another team of technical consultants, their ServiceNow developer admins. They need to be doing some technical deep dive and understand what data needs to be mapped where. They would actually do that work. Then they would be available then to import the new data into the sandbox. And then they would, of course, need to have training and resources around that. And then to look at also at the new life cycle stages and statuses to align so that the life cycle of our products, our applications, our hardware CIs and assets are aligned across the platform. And with that, they do need to plan on having a bit of plan on resource time to get the best out of a CMDB remediation.
Okay, well, I can see. You mentioned getting management on board. I can certainly see the importance of doing that to get the commitment for resources. And then, just to summarize, it sounds like two teams. Then one is more the data people, application owners and service owners and data architects and so on. And then they'd be supported by technical support folks like your ServiceNow admins in the company, so on. Does that sound about right?
And that's absolutely right. It's a full force effort. Everybody must be on board, or you know, they may need to have life jackets if they don't have a full um, team supporting turning this ship around.
Okay, cool. So once you've lined all that up, then how does that transition actually work? Do you have any tips for customers to make it go smoother?
Actually, a lot of it is around the testing and the training. You're going to have to train your service desk people to understand, what fields need to be populated within incident management. You're going to need to make sure your enterprise architects understand what fields are needing to be populated. Once everybody's on board, then there needs to be a cutoff date that is communicated and a go live. And that's when the data would move away from, this sandbox and into a production environment. And it probably needs to be done over a weekend so that there's time to do some smoke testing
Yeah,
and
yeah.
remediation if need be in the production environment.
Okay. Well, so say we've got the thing implemented now, got it up and running. What next? How does an organization start using it?
So they're already kind of using the data. It's just not as organized as it probably could. They can now begin to implement products like digital portfolio management, which relies heavily on the CSDM data around their services, service offerings, service commitments. You're going to, start using this data. It requires um, or personas in the organization to manually do their job inside of ServiceNow. I would recommend looking at the CSDM Getting Started workshop deck, which we have available for our customers, partners, and implementers to utilize this as part of that work stream one when they're modeling that data. It's also to help them train how they do it. We have a new service builder that will help our service owners build that service data as part of that CSDM data modeling. So I recommend them to go out to Now Create, download those workshop decks and the data modeling workbook and look at the examples. And that will also teach them that ongoing, they're going to need to maintain this data so that they can, when there's an event and there's an outage, and event management needs to know what service is being affected. All this data rolls up into making that possible for the organization to become more automated and digitally transformed.
Okay. Well, along the way here, you've mentioned a number of different sources of information. Let's see. You mentioned a white paper, um, uh, the step-by-step guide in the community, and the slide deck, and of course, there's also product documentation there. Did I miss anything? Any other good sources of information?
You got it, Steve. So first is the docs site, ServiceNow, docs.servicenow.com. And the other site would be nowlearning.com/nowcreate. And that's where you can get any guidance around CMDB, CSDM, um, uh, data modeling, and the workshop decks.
Okay, that sounds good. I will put all that in the podcast listing so people can find that easily. All right. Well, was there anything else you wanted to add about CSDM, about implementing it or getting or using it?
No, I would just, let everyone know that, doing CSDM is not as hard as it sounds. It could cause people many headaches, but you got to take that first step, and I think most customers will find value in being able to um, in having valuable reports and being able to analyze their business better and be able to make more use out of the platform.
Okay. Well, and when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that ServiceNow has tried to automate as many of these steps as possible, like just identifying what data tables you need. Like there's a script for that, and so on. So that's the much of the process is made easier, isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I again would direct people to look at the getting started, because it's about, if the right people are putting in the data and doing their job within the platform, the CSDM model will come together. So the enterprise architect doesn't necessarily need to know or understand what tables the service owners need to populate, or what data they need to populate. And same way, the service owners and product owners don't always need to understand the data tables that the enterprise architects are looking at, or that the IT application owners looking at. But when each of them work together hand in hand, and do their part within the platform, the data model comes together.
Okay. Well, anything else for us today, Mary?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, well, I guess that's a wrap then. So I want to thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's interesting. A lot of my guests, they share information about particular ServiceNow apps and services, and it's really good to get some scoop on the platform itself, the data that supports those apps and services from underneath.
I do want to add one more thing. It takes data, configuration, and process. It's a three-legged stool to come together to get the most value out of the ServiceNow platform. Historically, we've looked at process and the configuration in our implementation products, but I would really recommend customers taking that moment, that breath before they get started, um, in their journeys, is to stop and look at their data as part of that three-legged stool.
All right, good point. Thank you very much. All right, well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Mary.
You're welcome, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Please tell us what you think of this podcast. You can leave feedback or ask questions in the ServiceNow community. For more information on any ServiceNow topic, take a look at our product documentation or knowledge base or our ServiceNow support YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.